Five Nights at Freddy's has the craziest theories ever, and with how often new FNAF games change or add to the lore, some theories age better than others. Today, I'm going to cover early FNAF theories that didn't age well, but still were widely believed or really popular for being controversial and infamous. As always, thank you for watching. BV87 is referring to basically with the Markiplier clip, and if you're a FNAF fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's a clip of the crying child getting bit by Fredbear, and Markiplier reacting to it saying, "Is that the bite of 87?" A lot of people believe that this scene was showcasing the bite of 87 because it being mentioned in FNAF 1, and the phone guy specifically referring to it and commenting on, "It's weird how you can survive without a frontal lobe." And that actual piece of evidence right there is why this series debunked. A lot of other reasons too. The locations are different and stuff, but the crying child did not survive the bite, and it's very likely that the victim of the bite of 87, the actual bite of 87, is still alive or lived that initial bite because of Phone Guy's comment. The actual date of the clip where the crying child was bit is the bite of 83, but this series is just saying that those two are swapped and it's actually the bite of 87. Purple phone is a classic theory of the purple guy being the phone guy. And there's actually a lot of evidence for this, but unfortunately it is debunked after the introduction of William Afton. Still, this was a really popular theory, specifically because MatPat is, I think, the one that came up with it, or at the very least popularized this idea. And I actually found this post on Steam where someone's asking, so phone guy confirmed to be purple guy. Let me just read out the post. Scott made this comment in his recent post. Quote, Game Theory did an incredible video on part 2, getting almost everything right. Then part 3 came out, and once again the story was uncovered by the community. It seemed there was nothing I could hide. End quote. Guys, Game Theory did an incredible video on part 2, getting almost everything right. Part 2 was all about the phone guy being the killer. And under this thread, Scott actually commented on it, which is pretty interesting. And he says, almost everything right. So I think this is confirmation at that time of just straight up debunking it. So if the evidence disproving purple phone wasn't enough, because there was a lot of counter evidence against that theory, Scott's comments on it definitely debunked it. Still a really iconic theory though, and they might have accidentally put this into the FNAF movie as well too, because William Afton, who is this career counselor under the name Steve Raglan, actually kind of like plays the role of the phone guy in a way, telling Mike over the phone basically the rundown of the FNAF location, like his job basically, and sort of plays that role. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that's a cool nod to the purple phone theory. PhoneTrap is a theory that phone guy is Springtrap. There's not too much to this, but it just boils down to there not being a lot of other characters. This could also be referring to purple phone too a little bit, and just the aftermath of what happened to purple guy. Again, pretty easily debunked. The dream theory is a very divisive one, and I do have to stress this, it is debunked, but I still want to talk about it because it is interesting. It's hard to say whether MatPat was the one to come up with it entirely on his own, but when people think about the dream theory back in the first 2 games, this is the theory they're referring to. I'm not going to go through all the evidence for it, I'm just going to give a brief summary. Essentially what it's saying is that the first 4 Five Nights at Freddy's games are the dreams of the bite victim, or the crying child, except for the FNAF 4 minigames, because those ones are just revealing more about the actual character, so that would be in real life, except for everything else besides that. There is a surprising amount of evidence that backs this up, whether that's due to inconsistencies or just how the games are presenting the lore to us through the minigames or weird events. And just FNAF 4 specifically too has a lot of nods to there being more going on with, I think, pills and just like medical equipment next to the bed, as well as flowers at some point. Stuff showing up and disappearing, which led a lot of people to think that maybe some parts of what we were seeing isn't real. And whenever you start going down that path, you start getting into dream theories. Dream theories is really popular in a lot of pop culture and popular media, but they're not the most satisfying stories. And I do want to cover Scott Cawthon's comments too here in a bit. But before we get into that, this is one of those theories that held like a lot of debates and was pretty divisive. Scott does poke fun at it a lot, and I think it's because he knows that this isn't true and it's just his way of addressing it. In 2016, there was this deleted Reddit post about how the dream theory should die, and Scott responded saying, "I know, right? Who came up with this anyways?" Which a lot of people took as debunking the theory. But Scott also made another post in 2015 concerning the Halloween content update, and in here he kind of addresses this post is talked about a lot. I've seen it get discussed a lot. Let me read out the post. Hi guys, I want to post some information about the upcoming Halloween update. I just started off a few months ago with several ideas in mind for what I wanted to release, ranging from a DLC to a new game to opening the box. More on that later. But now I've been working steadily and have a pretty clear vision going forward. The October 31st content will be an automatic update, not DLC. It will update the game to 1.1 and will include lots of goodies on the extras menu for those who have beaten Night 6, including a cheat menu, a challenge menu, and a twist on a familiar minigame that provides a boost when playing challenge modes. This also means there will be a whole new set of stars to earn for those who are up to the challenge. That part will be released for certain, and I'm hoping to have something else to add to it, but it may not be ready. I have something fun in mind, a new game, not FNAF 5, but will be a real challenge to have even a small playable portion by October 31st. If a playable demo isn't ready by then at the very least there will be some sneak peek content. Now I want to talk about what won't be included. The box. You know, when I released the first game over a year ago, I was amazed how quickly people found every bit of lore and story. Then the same happened with part 2. Fans and YouTubers dug in and found everything. Game Theory did an incredible video on part 2, getting almost everything right. Then part 3 came out, and once again, the story wasn't covered by the community. It seemed there was nothing I could hide. But then I released part 4, and somehow, no one, not a single person, found the pieces. The story remains completely hidden. I guess most people assume that I filled the game with random Easter eggs this time. I didn't. What is in the box? It's the pieces put together. But the bigger question is, would the community accept it that way? The fact that the pieces have remained elusive this time strikes me as incredible and special, a fitting conclusion in some ways. And because of that, I've decided that maybe some things are best left forgotten forever. What I want to talk about is the last 2 paragraphs where he mentions how Game Theory got almost everything right for the most part up until part 4. Part 4 is when he started talking about the dream theory, and this very much is what Scott is talking about and why I don't think the dream theory was ever the intention. I like how Scott doesn't even really sugarcoat it. He just says that the story remains completely hidden. From this, you can kind of gather that MatPat wasn't even close. I feel like Scott would have mentioned if he was, especially with how he says he almost got everything right in the earlier parts. But because Game Theory is a popular channel and the Dream Theory was a pretty popular video, I think the popularity boosted the credibility of the information, which doesn't exactly mean it's canon, because Scott, confirmed it wasn't. In an interview with Daco, Scott made this quote, 4 ended just too mysterious to the point where you really couldn't, there was no real way to figure out what was going on, end quote. I think this means, this is just my own personal analysis on this, this means I think that people weren't even close. It seems like Scott could have fell into the trap of putting too many puzzle pieces, but either they are found through other puzzle pieces and so they're contingent on people finding the first clue to find like the 4th one, or potentially it was just way too confusing. Things were not connected enough to where people couldn't pick up on everything. And what I do want to talk about here is that a lot of people when theory crafting, especially in the early days, their focus was very all over the place. And I think that had a lot to do with MatPat's videos, where it seems like MatPat would find the story first or find the idea first and then make the clues around it fit. And so that led to a lot of details being exaggerated in order to make up for the gap of reasoning. And what I think that could have possibly led to is just people focusing on the wrong things, or details that don't matter / don't matter as much as other specific ones. And so that leads to theories not exactly getting to the point of the story, but just for the sake of the theory itself. Anyways, the dream theory is a pretty interesting topic. I actually really like covering it, but it is lazy storytelling, and I can see why FNAF didn't go in that direction. Foxy Friend is a theory that Foxy is actually a good guy. This is the very classic one where people thought that because of Foxy's jump scare in the first game, that he's actually just checking up on you. And a lot of people also add on to it saying oh, he accidentally kills you in the first game's jump scare because he checked on you too quickly or whatever. And so that led you to accidentally dying. So he actually didn't mean to do that. I think this is pretty funny. Obviously not true or whatever, debunked. I think even at the time it was pretty discarded, but I think it came out of a place of wanting to add characters to the, characters of the animatronics. In terms of character writing, they were kind of bland. And I think people just wanted to give something special to Foxy, especially because his jump scare is that much different than the other animatronics in the game. FreddyGirl is the theory that Freddy Fazbear is possessed by a girl. This was very, very early on to where people were trying to figure out all the lore and the gender of the characters, their names, everything. And so this is one of the details that was pretty debated. And it kind of came from the file name for Freddy's laugh. The file name for Freddy's laugh was called laugh_giggle_girl. And so people took that as being, oh, it's actually like a girl laugh, but it's just the file name. And so it was slowed down to create Freddy's actual laugh. But also in FNAF 2, Freddy is just near the girl's bathroom. And in FNAF 1, Freddy is able to hide in the girl's bathroom. And so people connected the dots and was like, oh, he's actually like a girl. But now later on, it's revealed to be actually a male character. Salvaged or SalvagedTrap is the theory that Springtrap is built up and made of all the animatronics before FNAF 3, and that parts of their animatronics are what made up and built Springtrap. So you got like Bonnie's ears, obviously, you got, I think Freddy's body, different pieces and stuff. A lot of it was speculation. I think salvage, that word is also a reference to what people thought were going to be the third game. Not too sure on that. I think it was just a fan game idea, potentially. But as soon as FNAF 3 came out, this theory was pretty debunked. Speaking of salvage, I found this video actually as I was looking up something about someone made a YouTube video in 2015 with like less than 1,000 views. I can't believe I actually found this. And this is like a theory from back in the day that Salvaged caused the bite of 83. I just wanted to include this. I'll link it in the description for you to check it out. Yeah, I just think this is a really cool video find. Next up is a really controversial theory, and it's the adult theory. This one is very debunked, and it was a theory made by PopGoes, who actually, I think, works on FNAF fan games now, or as a developer. But he made like a post 9 years ago talking about this theory around speculation for the sister location game, and then made their theory in their post around the time of the teaser for the sister location. So sister location hadn't actually come out yet. I'll read the post by PopGoes here in a second, but I do want to talk about how just like wild this theory is. And I actually want to read out Scott Cawthon's a quote as he's addressing this theory in Daco's interview in 2018. Quote, "Whenever sister location first came out, there was the adult theory, And I saw that and I'm like, oh no. And it wasn't completely off base. Like I could see where it was being derived from. So it's not like it was someone just trying to cause trouble for no reason. It was just a theory. But I was like, I have to step in. Like I have to do something to fix this right away. And my response to that, to fix that, evolved into, a pretty simple solution. I would just release a new teaser that would kind of steer it in the correct direction, And that was the right way to handle it. It's not to directly interact with the community, but just a new teaser that just kind of guides us back. And I did that very soon, like within a couple of days after the adult theory gained popularity, and it kind of guided it back to where it was supposed to be. Anyways, let me read out the post. By the way, I'm gonna put a little content warning. I'm gonna censor some words just due to YouTube being YouTube, but because of the content, I just need to give a disclaimer. First of all, even though I will be calling it one for the sake of consistency, this is not a fully fledged theory because the game is not out yet. It is a prediction I've had ever since the trailer came out. I've spoken with numerous people for help with evidence, and trust me, it's not just some joke theory. I've kept it quiet on Reddit for a reason. I teased it somewhat today, and now people are insulting me left and right, some even calling me sick, which is a bit far. So I'm going to try and clear this up a bit. As a disclaimer, in case you are young, this theory involves adult themes. I'm not showing any nudity or but I will be talking about things that may be inappropriate for very young readers. The sister location is either a restaurant with a hidden entrance to an adult-themed location, or the sister location is a nickname for an adult-themed location. Let me, first of all, talk about the building itself. The gameplay, from what we can gather, will take place underground. The introduction scene in the trailer is very clearly a platform which is moving down. No matter if you see it as an elevator or whatever, it is definitely moving underground, as you can see lights in the window moving upwards. The phrase "deep below ground" is also stated in the trailer. The location has child themes though, props such as posters, figurines, and party lighting. However, it is not safe for children to roam around. There are exposed wires, shaky machinery, and floor-level ventilation shafts. If we don't assume anything from outside sources or our own minds, we can also say that the location includes the show stage, the animatronics, and the spotlights for the characters too. So we can say the location has childlike themes, but is still, as mentioned previously, clearly not safe for children themselves to walk around. Maybe that's a stretch, but that's what I can see. Now I'll talk about the characters. Maybe this will get my theory across. There is a female little girl animatronic with pigtails and a red dress called Baby. Called Baby. You don't call a character who can walk, talk, sing Baby unless there's something else going on, in my opinion. Baby is a word used for either actual babies or it's a nickname used for a lover. If you stop looking at the game face on, you should be able to agree with that. If you don't, then whatever. Ballora is a half-naked ballerina. She has very exposed breasts with merely a blue strip of plastic covering the top and front of them. I'm not making that up, and it's been a point of discussion for ages. She dances, keeps her eyes shut all the time, and has standard makeup, which we are pretty used to by now. Ballora does not exist to entertain children from what I can tell. Ballerinas were a lot more than that. Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy are not explicitly designed to be adult-themed, nor do they seem to do anything sexual. I won't deny that the name Funtime is a bit dodgy, however. That's still something which seems off. The hand puppet and the lack of Funtime Foxy's hook is also worth mentioning, but other than that, they seem innocent. Now let me tell you about the themes and hints we have been given. And Pop Ghost just put up these phrases in quotes. Don't hold it against us. You don't know what we've been through. Please stay in your seats. The show is about to begin. Deep below ground. Secrets don't keep. There's a little of me in everybody. Come on, I'm getting increasingly worried that people are very stubborn with their own theories or repetitive belief of Scott wouldn't go there, that we might just be ignoring the obvious answer. Is this obvious? I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it. But are you joking? How are you not seeing the adult implications with these phrases? This is not subtle, this is very clearly something more than a pizzeria. Now let me clarify, Scott would go there. I need to make sure people understand that I'm not predicting animatronics having sex with each other or the player in this game. However, we would be witnessing the aftermath of a disgusting ritual of fetishism and abuse. Is that normal? Hell no, but it's not going to be a normal game. You don't know what we've been through. We know a lot. We know what a lot of animatronics have been through. We know in FNAF 2 that animatronics are presumably haunted and have been installed with facial recognition to determine whether someone is a predator or not. That word is used. Not a criminal, not a vandal, not a murderer, a predator. We know about children being lured, killed, stuffed into suits. We know about bullies pushing a child into an animatronic head, letting him die in a hospital while having nightmares of robotic human hybrids with hundreds of teeth. We know about restless souls trying to escape facilities. We know about a man who was punctured in a suit, bleeding out in a room that was made for people to die in silence. But we don't know what they've been through. Why wouldn't Scott do worse? Why wouldn't he go there? Are you that naive to dismiss a theory with evidence because you don't think a game developer would mention something like this? They have speakers in their chest, there's a control panel to control robotics. We have just been given a timetable which is likely hinted that animatronics can be booked and privatized. This is more than just an animatronics club. This is a theory, it is a different one, and I'm not going to push it down anyone's throats. Think for yourself, make your own discussions, and don't pretend that everything is canon until it's confirmed. We're all thinkers, there's more to this game than you might believe, and I'm just trying to figure out what we've got, which isn't a lot. And come on, don't call me sick. Okay, that was a long post. And it does make sense that this post came out during the teaser of Sister Location because it definitely would have come out after the game. It would not make sense at all. Yeah, a lot of the evidence here in this post doesn't line up. Even if it, like, we take it seriously, it's just lack of evidence. It's very much speculation. And that's what Pop Ghost starts with. But the way they defended themselves in this post kind of didn't help their case because it just made them more, I don't know, stubborn about it. And you can kind of see how it comes across in the post. They literally say like, hey, don't be naive, don't like call me sick or whatever. And that's, I don't know, interesting. Also, clearly this post was wrong about the whole like, oh, why couldn't Scott do this? Or wouldn't Scott do worse and all that. And just speaking for Scott, like he hasn't like made games before this is really warped, I guess. It's a really interesting perspective to have because it's putting a lot of words into Scott's mouth. Scott, after this, showed through his actions that he does not agree with like putting this stuff into his games. While a lot of the lore and like events of Five Nights at Freddy's have dark moments and a lot of body horror, there are some lines that Scott's not gonna cross. And I imagine it put Scott in an awkward position where he felt like he had to respond, as he clearly did. All these theories are linked in the description. If you liked hearing about these early FNAF theories, you'll definitely enjoy the last video. This video is a part 3, but you don't have to watch them in order. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you're a bit less bored.